Today's lesson is on dividing rational numbers. This is part 2 of our video. Today we will be dividing fractions. In order to divide fractions, you need to understand what it means to find the reciprocal of a fraction. So that's what we're going to do first. So to find the reciprocal of a fraction, first we must change the mixed number to an improper fraction and flip the fraction and use the same sign. So before I do the 3 examples below, I want to show you what it means to find the reciprocal of a fraction. So let's say we had a fraction like 5/6. To find its reciprocal, you're simply going to flip the numerator and the denominator. So the reciprocal of 5/6 is 6/5. So you just flip-flopped these two. Let's say that we had 5/6, but it was negative. When you flip-flop these, the 6 becomes negative and the 5 is in the denominator. So you're again just flip-flopping these. So let's take a look at when we have the numbers as a mixed number and then we still have to find the reciprocal. So we're going to follow these rules up here where we have to change the mixed number into an improper fraction first. Then we can flip-flop numerator and denominator. To go from a mixed number to an improper fraction, you take the 3 in the denominator, multiply it times the whole number 5, and add 1. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16, and you always keep that denominator. In this case, it was 3. So 5 1/3 is equivalent to the improper fraction 16/3. Since we want to find the reciprocal of 16/3, just flip-flop the numerator and denominator. So the reciprocal is 3/16. Let's try another one. 7 8/9, we first need to change it to an improper fraction by multiplying 9 times 7 and then adding 8. 9 times 7 is 63, plus 8 more is 71. So this becomes 71/9. Okay, to find its reciprocal then, we're just going to flip-flop numerator and denominator. 71/9 becomes 9/71. And finally, in the last example, again, to take the mixed number into an improper fraction, it becomes 11 times 6 plus 5 more. 11 times 6 is 66. Plus 5 more is 71, and we keep the denominator of 11. To find the reciprocal, you're going to flip-flop the two, so the reciprocal is 11/71. Something you may have noticed, when you are finding the reciprocal of a fraction, let's go back to my first example of 5/6. If you multiply it times its reciprocal of 6/5, you get 30/30, which equals 1. So in other words, a number times its reciprocal will always be equal to 1. Let's take a look at some more examples now of not only finding the reciprocal, but also actually going a step further and actually dividing rational numbers. So let's look at kind of our review up here. First, we're going to change any mixed numbers to improper fractions. Then we're going to follow an acronym called KCF. We will keep the first fraction the same. We will change the division sign to multiplication. Flip the second fraction using the reciprocal. Then we'll multiply the fractions. We will definitely look for any cross simplification and then decide if our answer is going to be positive or negative. Okay, in the first example, we do not have any mixed numbers, so we can actually divide our fractions and start right here with step number 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn all of these division problems into multiplication problems just because it's much easier to multiply fractions than it is to divide them. So we always keep that first number, much like we did when we added and subtracted integers. We're going to change the division to a multiplication sign. Then this is where our little mini lesson on reciprocal comes in handy. When we change this to a multiplication problem, we have to find the reciprocal of the second fraction. The reciprocal of -5/24 is negative 24 over 5. Then we're going to look diagonally and see if there's any shortcuts here, because we might have common factors, and we definitely do. The 5 and the 5 are common factors. Each of those is divisible by 5. So I'm going to divide both of them by 5 and I get 1. The 8 and the 24 also have a common factor of 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1, and 24 divided by 8 is a 3. That is a negative 3. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3, and 1 times 1 is 1. Anytime we have 1 in the denominator, we can ignore it, and our final answer is negative 3. In this example, it's going to require a little bit more work because we do have mixed numbers to start with. So we're first going to change them into improper fractions. So I'm going to do all my work up here. We're going to take 6 times 2 is 12, plus 5 more is 17, and because it was negative to start with, it's still negative. So that turns into negative 17/6. It is being divided by 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 more is 11, and it's going to be negative 11/3. Once they are both written as improper fractions, now we can change it to a multiplication problem. We're going to keep the first fraction, we're going to change the division sign to multiplication, and we're going to flip-flop the numerator and denominator and find the reciprocal of a negative 11/3. The reciprocal is 11 over negative 11, is 3 over negative 11. We can look diagonally now to find common factors, and 3 and 6 definitely have a common factor of 2. 17 and 11 do not have common factors, so I'm going to leave it alone. If I multiply straight across, negative 17 times 1 is negative 17. 2 times negative 11 is a negative 22. And you can see I have a negative divided by a negative, which we know is a positive. So there's my final answer. Moving on to the last two examples, we're going to do a little bit of algebra. So notice the directions say solve the equation for the variable. Now a variable is a letter in a problem. It's used to represent an unknown amount. So in this example, we have y as a variable. In the second example, we have letter m. So when we have a fraction multiplied times a variable, we are trying to find an unknown amount that this y is standing for. So in other words, negative 9 over 2 times some number is equal to 27/2. To find that missing number, we need to get the y all by itself. So we're going to take this fraction and find its reciprocal and multiply it on both sides. The reciprocal of negative 9/2 is negative 2/9. I'm going to multiply that on the left side of the equation and the right side. So I'm multiplying that same number on both sides. When I multiply a fraction times its reciprocal, I end up with 1. So negative 2 times negative 9 is 18. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 over 18 is just equal to 1. So because I just have 1 on the left side, that's a 1y. On the right side, I'm going to take advantage of some shortcuts with the 2's. They both have a common factor of 2. And the 9 and the 27 have a common factor of 9. And that just leaves a 3 times negative 1, which is negative 3, and 1 times 1 is 1. Again, anytime we have 1 in the denominator, we can ignore it when we talk about fractions. My final answer is negative 3. I can even replace this negative 3 for the y and make sure I get 27/2. So if I check my answer, negative 9/2 times negative 3 is that 27 over 2. Negative 9 times negative 3 is a positive 27, and I do have 2 in the denominator, so it does check out. In this example, I'm going to do the same thing. I have a fraction right next to the variable. I'm going to find the reciprocal of 9/5, which is 5/9. All I did was flip-flop these two. I'm going to multiply those together, and I'm also going to multiply 3/7 by 5/9. I have to do the same thing on both sides of the equation. Over here, these guys are just going to cancel out and leave me with 1m. On the other side, I'm going to take advantage of the 3 being a common factor of 3 and 9, and then multiply straight across. 1 times 5 is 5, 7 times 3 is 21. That is already reduced to lowest terms, so I'm finished. Thank you for watching.